By 2030, world hunger is supposed to be a thing of the past. At least that is one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. But can it actually be achieved? Welcome to this special edition of Echo Africa on food security. I'm Chris Elems in Lagos, Nigeria, and with me, of course, is my co-host, Sandra.
Thank you, Chris. I am Sandra Twinobrio, coming to you from Kampala here in Uganda. So, where are we in the fight to end world hunger? And what will it take to succeed? In the next half an hour, we'll show you some inspiring ideas and projects. Here is a quick look at some of the stories that will be coming your way on Echo Africa today. We'll see how a nearly forgotten grain is making a comeback in Mali. And we try to imagine a world without pesticides. But let us start with an overview of the situation. When we talk about food security, what does it actually mean? Having plenty to eat in reserve? Can we produce enough food for the world's growing population? What are the challenges? Our special Eco Check addresses these and gives you many facts and figures.
Having enough healthy and nutritious food to eat, that's not something everyone in the world can take for granted. In 2020, nearly 2.4 billion people were without access to adequate food. That leads to malnutrition and undernutrition. Modern agricultural practices limit nutritional variety. Many farmers increasingly rely on high-yield monocultures. 60% of today's dietary energy comes from just 3 grains: rice, wheat, and corn. The number of hungry people around the world has risen steadily in recent years. Last year, 21% of Africa's population was undernourished. The proportion of hungry people was almost twice as high in Africa than in other areas of the world. Conflicts, poverty, and the current COVID-19 pandemic have all had a damaging effect on food security. Improper storage, long transport routes, and overconsumption cause more than 1 billion tons of food to be wasted every year. Add to that, drought, floods, and animal diseases cause crops to fail. Between 2008 and 2018, 6.9 trillion kilocalories were lost per year in the least developed and low to middle income countries, enough to feed 7 million adults for a year. The global population is expected to grow to nearly 10 billion by 2050. The World Resources Institute estimates that 56% more food will be needed than compared to 2010. If we don't learn to be more careful with our food, we'll soon need a lot more arable land, as much as twice the size of India in total. We have to produce more high-quality food without causing further damage to nature and the climate. Sustainable, organic, and local farming could go a long way towards ensuring that.
While efficient strategies and diverse seed choices can help achieve food security, digital technologies are also playing an increasingly important role. Data collection and analysis can be useful for pinpointing the strengths and the weaknesses, and the internet supports learning and capacity building opportunities. Here is a look at one agriculture technology company in Kenya that is achieving impressive results.
Once a month, Moses Kimani flies a drone over his clients' fields. Africa has fertile soils, but crop yields here are often low. This technology could change that. The drone's camera captures the light that's reflected off the plants in various wavelengths and so reveals information which the naked human eye cannot see.
We fly closely over the crops, taking that image. Later on we analyze and we can see if the crops are stressed. And why this is important, with a drone you can actually see crop stress 2 weeks before you can see it with your naked eye. So it helps the farmer make the right decision in time before the crop has a loss.
Moses Kimani founded the company Lentera Africa in 2016 together with a friend. The
Yeah,
small
so
business
it,
has also set
connects.
up a demo system. Clients can use it to learn how to use the technology. This sensor measures the temperature, humidity, and soil moisture at various layers. A special app developed by the startup then transmits the data free of charge to a cell phone. It's data that is increasingly vital to the farmers as Kenya too is suffering the effects of climate change. Seasons and weather patterns are shifting, harvests are decreasing. Lentera seeks to offer solutions to these problems.
So Lentera Africa, we are a Kenyan-based agriculture technology company. We enable farmers adapt to climate change and increase their yield through precision agriculture, through climate-smart inputs, and through conservation agriculture.
The soil census data is combined with additional information, regional weather forecasts and images from satellites, which can quickly capture large areas of land from outer space. The images come from the Sentinel-2 satellites. These Eye in the Sky are part of Europe's Earth observation network, Copernicus. Every 5 days, they send a new image. The specialists at the startup then turn the data into valuable information for local farmers. The technology can evaluate a plant's growth and highlight potential problem areas. It's even possible to estimate how high a crop yield will be. Ruth Gakenya has been using Lentera Africa's app for about a year. Her vegetables are flourishing. She can now sell 40% more produce than before to hotels and local markets. 200 farmers already use the app. Ruth appreciates its user-friendly setup.
Unlike before, when we were depending a lot on eyes coming to check, and if I'm not able to be here, then I have to depend on the workers. Sometimes they don't do the scouting properly, they don't give me the correct information. So this app has been like my second eyes and giving me information which I cannot even see. For example, the weather.
Ruth Gakenya has been able to improve her crop yields and her earnings, but Lentera needs to send a lot of data to users' smartphones. A lack of coverage in rural areas and the greater bandwidth that the farmers have to purchase from mobile service providers can be obstacles for some, especially smaller businesses.
It is amazing the amount of data those systems are able to collect, but cutting-edge technology does not always have all the answers. Sometimes simple and basic solutions are the better option.
That's right, Sandra. We now meet some women here in Nigeria who have found a very useful, practical way to harness nature for a good cause. What they're doing is good for public health, good for the soil, and a way to save money.
Chemical pesticides are still the main weapon for many farmers in Nigeria, but they're harmful for the soil in the long run. Anne-Marie Abagu shows female farmers one solution that uses the seeds and leaves of the neem tree.
Neem trees are actually everywhere in your neighborhood, and you can easily produce it for your farm. In terms of health-wise, it's health risk-free.
The leaves are pounded and soaked in hot water for 24 hours and then strained. The resulting brew provides nutrients for the plants and helps to keep parasites away. When dry, the seeds turn white and can also be pressed to produce oil. Anne-Marie Abagu explains how to apply the neem extracts by mixing them with water or applying them directly to the leaves. Neem products need more time to react than chemical alternatives, but they're more sustainable.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
Unfortunately, all too often, these organic treatments aren't enough, and many farmers still don't want to say goodbye to pesticides completely, especially when they have large areas of crops to protect. Let's have a closer look at how we got where we are today and the consequences of using chemical pesticides on a massive scale.
hates a pest. And since the dawn of agriculture, we've been trying to keep them away from our food. Ancient Greek and Egyptian communities trained their cats and even domesticated mongooses to keep locusts and rodents away from their cereals and fruit crops. In modern times, pest control really blew up in the global north in the post-war pesticide era, when chemicals were synthesized from organic compounds and used widely for the first time. Chemical fertilizers and pesticides flooded the market, and high-yielding seeds began to be used across the global south. Some estimates say it saved over 100 million lives in countries that were on the verge of a food crisis. For a while, economies prospered as more people were fed. It seemed like a magical solution had been found. Lately, however, this method of farming has seen a lot of critics.
It's like us evolving resistant to an antibiotic, no? They are effective to some extent, but then eventually, especially if you abuse them, then you evolve resistant to them. The same thing happened with insects. They evolve resistance to the pesticides. So the more you apply, the more resistant the population become, and the less effective the pesticide becomes.
Coating the soil indiscriminately also leads to other species dying off. In the last 30 years, global insect populations around farms have declined by up to 75%. And that's not all. Runoffs from farms fill rivers with chemicals, and when they drain into the ocean, they kill off large populations of wildlife, from sharks to turtles and whales, like in the Gulf of Mexico's dead zone. Not to mention that spraying pesticides can cause farmers problems from skin rashes to long-term lung damage. And the residues that remain on produce can cause long-term health conditions among the people that eat the fruits and vegetables. Organic is the umbrella term for anything grown without chemical pesticides. Organic farming methods can include introducing natural predators to keep pests away, or growing multiple crops to improve soil health, and even using organic pesticides that are generally less toxic than chemicals. This does lead to more land needed for agriculture and less yield overall. The jury's still out on whether organic food is actually much more nutritious, but what is certain is that organic vegetables contain far fewer pesticide residues and are therefore healthier. An American team of soil scientists found that while conventional farms produce 10 to 20% higher yields, organic farming is not only better for the environment, but, and more surprisingly,
it was more profitable, significantly so. And part of that reason is because organic farmers get a premium for their food. They get more money for their food. Over that 40-year period between 1975 and 2015, the premium averaged about 30% more.
But at the moment, of all the farmland around the world, the share of completely organic farms is just 1.5%. As this grows, the price of organic produce is expected to fall to make organic food more accessible. In fact, prices have already largely started to fall in the last 10 years around the world. But do we need to cut down more forest, or can organic yields sustain the world?
Our studies show very convincingly that that given the yields that are produced in organic agriculture and the amount of food that is needed to satisfy the nutritional requirement of the human population, that it is possible with organic agriculture to produce enough food to feed everybody.
Many studies have come to the same conclusion, but with one major caveat: our diets. If people ate only vegan food, 100% of the population could be fed on organics, using just the land we already farm. Vegetarianism could feed 94%, and a Western-style meat-heavy diet could feed 15% of the population. There is another big factor as well: inefficiency. Right now, 1/3 of all the food we produce worldwide gets wasted. A good example of inefficiency of land use is corn. Most corn harvested in the US goes directly to animal feed or to be burned as fuel, while less than a tenth enters the food system. So in theory, we could feed the world with just organic food, especially with a more plant-based diet and more efficient farming systems. But do we need to get rid of all pesticides? Maybe we don't need to be so radical. Around the world, more and more farmers are integrating their farms, growing organic crops with pesticide only when needed, or targeting certain crops rather than flooding fields with chemicals. The movement to ditch chemicals is growing. When farmers, consumers, and governments do their bit, feeding the world through healthier farming can become a reality.
Healthier farming practices are also better for biodiversity. But 2/3 of agricultural land around the globe is used to grow a mere 9 plant species, mainly sugarcane, wheat, corn and rice. In Mali, more and more farmers are rediscovering and planting a traditional grain, fonio, which has been grown there for more than 5,000 years.
It's harvest time in Tunisia, a district in the central eastern region of Mali near the border of Burkina Faso. They're harvesting fonio, a crop native to West Africa, a kind of millet with small seeds and excellent properties. It grows in dry climates and sandy soil, even without irrigation. Now, more and more farmers are growing it again.
Compte tenu de la dégradation naturelle aujourd'hui,
We have to take land degradation into account. Fonio is much in demand again now because it helps protect the soil.
celui qui produit le fonio, une fois avoir
After the fonio has been cut, the stems are left in the ground, and that helps to fertilize the soil.
on fait l'enfouissage. Et avec ça, ça permet de refertiliser le sol.
Traditionally, fonio is threshed on straw mats. Then the seeds are mixed with sand and pounded in a mortar. It takes hours to extract a couple of kilos of the edible part of the grain. But things have changed here since the Swiss NGO Helvetus provided new machines that make it much easier to process the grains. The one machine separates the grain from the stems. The other removes the husks in no time. That saves these women a lot of work. Now, they only need to sift the grains to remove any remaining impurities. We used to have to pound the grains till our hands got red and sore, but thanks to the machines from Helvetus, we don't need to do that anymore. Now it is far less strenuous. We can just wash the grains and put them in the pot to cook. The grains are used to make porridge, couscous, bread and also beer. Ibrahim Soleiman Touankara runs a restaurant in the capital, Bamako. Fonio used to be reserved for special occasions and festivities, but now it's becoming a daily staple. The most popular dish on the menu at Li Bafing is mango chicken with fonio. Many guests come especially for that. Fonio is really the best food in Mali. We eat it all the time at home. I often ask my wife to make it for me, but we've come here as a special treat because it's so incredibly good the way they make it here. Fonio is not only tasty, it's also very nutritious. Scientists say it has exceptional qualities, making it superior to rice and corn. It is very rich in essential amino acids, which are important for the body. It is a product that is very rich in fiber, so it is more digestible than other kinds of millet, rice and corn. Back in Tunisia, Pierre Terra is teaching younger colleagues how to make compost. In order to facilitate the process, they cover the pile with fonio straw.
Les tiges de fonio.
The fonio stems protect the compost from the sun.
Le compost contre le soleil.
The demand for fonio has been growing in recent years, and its price has been rising too. This gives farmers an opportunity to boost their income.
Crops that are adaptable to changing climate are important to many farmers, and fonio is just one crop that could be cultivated even more in future as the earth warms and environments change. But it's not just crop selection that's important. How we use water also needs to be reconsidered.
Absolutely, Chris. In Tunisia's northern desert, for example, the effects of climate change are increasingly noticeable. In the arid area around Kairouan, the soil is dusty, rainfall has decreased, and water has become a highly precious resource. That has led farmers to team up and get creative.
It takes a lot of water to irrigate his olive groves and vegetables. So Tunisian farmer Sharif Chehebi has 3 cisterns to collect rainwater. He owns 90 hectares of land, which is a lot for the Kairouan region.
We can pump 6 litres per second onto the fields. In summer, the cistern runs for 16 to 17 hours a day. We use less water in the cooler winter months. There's still enough rain. And with our well, we always have enough water.
Not everyone's situation is as comfortable. Just 10 kilometres away beyond these mountains, life is much harder. Most families here have to walk several kilometres to get to the nearest water source. To cover their daily needs, they might have to make a number of trips back and forth. Rajab Zagdood requires 250 litres of water every day, just for his animals and his fields. He needs an additional 40 litres for himself, his wife, and their 3 children.
It's really tough for the people who live in this region. It takes everyone so much time to fetch water. We're tired. Our children can't carry on doing this every day. It's a burden on the entire region. We still have no running water at home. It affects our quality of life. It's so hard. We're all trying to find solutions.
Cisterns that collect rainwater could offer the people here some relief. And now hundreds are being built with the help of a German development agency. Until now, a large part of the rainwater here was going unused.
The cisterns catch the rainwater that runs off the houses, which can be used as drinking water and for irrigation too. The farmers can use it to grow almonds, olives and rosemary, which don't require that much water.
The agency also advises farmers and has set up what it calls water forums. Constructive strategies are developed there, and farmers can discuss which plants they could grow that would use less water.
We have a really unusual situation in the region we're in now. There's basically no groundwater left because too much of it has been used up over the years. So the farmers are now having to resort to stored water.
But getting water to store is also a problem. It hasn't rained much in the past 4 years. Farmers get their water from this embankment dam. It supplies more than 500,000 people in Tunisia. But as water levels decline, it's being pumped further and further across the country. And that has a direct impact on the people who live here. Pressure is mounting, even on the farmers who didn't think they had to worry about their water supply. In some places, water is actually being stolen. There are an estimated 20,000 illegal wells in Tunisia. That's why raising awareness of the problem is so important. If nothing changes, farmers and their animals will no longer be able to survive in these mountains. And then the region might soon become uninhabited.
Making good use of modern technology, cultivating ancient plants and simply working together, all that will go a long way towards boosting food security in the future, despite climate change and the growing world population. So that's all for this week. I am Sandra Twinoblio, signing off from Kampala here in Uganda.
Thanks, Sandra. I hope we've helped you gain some insight into the importance of food security. And remember, we'll be back next week with a new Echo Africa show. In the meantime, check us out on social media. I am Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria. Bye for now and take care.